The story begins on a day that should have been peaceful. The streets of Metropolis glimmered under morning light. Clark Kent smiled as he listened to Lois Lane's heartbeat from miles away. Everything was calm. Everything was perfect. But perfection never lasts. That morning, the Joker escaped Arkham Asylum again. To Gotham, it was routine, another nightmare for Batman to clean up. But this time, the Clown Prince wasn't laughing at Gotham. He was looking toward Metropolis. Batman didn't understand why until it was too late. Within hours, Superman received a distress call from Lois. Panic in her voice. A hint of terror he'd never heard before. He arrived faster than sound, and saw her being held hostage by the Joker himself. He lunged forward, ready to save her, ready to end the madness. But that's when Joker's real trick began. A faint green gas filled the air. Not kryptonite, something worse. Superman's eyes burned red, his vision blurred. And suddenly, where Joker once stood, he saw Doomsday, the monster who had once killed him. His instincts took over. He grabbed the creature, flew into the sky, and didn't stop until they were miles above the city. Then, he heard the faintest voice. Lois. Her heartbeat. Her scent. Her tears. The illusion shattered, and horror flooded him. It wasn't Doomsday in his arms. It was Lois Lane. And worse, she was pregnant. At that moment, a signal triggered a nuclear bomb wired to her heartbeat. The Joker's final joke. When her heart stopped, Metropolis vanished in white light. Millions died in seconds. Superman fell from the sky, broken, silent. For hours he didn't move. The man who had saved the world countless times couldn't save the one person who mattered most. When Batman finally found him, Clark's eyes were hollow. He took everything from me, Superman whispered. Don't let him take you too, Batman said. But the words didn't reach him. The next morning, Superman walked into Gotham Police headquarters. He found the Joker in his cell, laughing. All that power, Joker grinned. And you still couldn't save her. There was a crack of bone, a flash of red light, and silence. Superman killed the Joker. In that single instant, the world changed. The symbol of hope became an executioner. And the Justice League was never the same again. When Batman confronted him, the two lifelong allies stood inches apart. You crossed a line, Batman said. Then maybe the line was wrong, Superman replied. For years, Superman had believed in restraint, in trust, in mercy. But mercy had cost him everything. So he made a promise. No one will ever suffer like this again. It sounded noble. But behind those words, there was only grief and rage. The first act of the new Superman was to end all wars. He descended into the Middle East, disarming entire armies with his bare hands. Leaders who resisted were forced to kneel. Missiles vanished. Dictators fell. And the people cheered. For the first time in history, peace spread across the world. But peace built on fear is just another kind of war. From the shadows, Batman watched the rise of something unstoppable. A god who no longer cared for consent, only control. He whispered to Alfred, the world's greatest hero just became its greatest threat. The world called it peace. Superman called it order. But Batman knew it for what it truly was, control. After the death of the Joker, Superman announced a new global alliance, the One Earth government. It wasn't a council. It wasn't democracy. It was ruled by fear, led by a god in red and blue. At first, people accepted it. The wars stopped. Crime rates dropped. Famine was nearly eradicated. But beneath the calm, there was a new terror. Anyone who spoke against the regime disappeared. And Superman's most loyal soldiers were heroes. Once symbols of hope, now enforcers of obedience. Wonder Woman became his right hand, believing he was doing what needed to be done. Cyborg ran his surveillance systems. Green Lantern patrolled orbit as his guardian of the skies. They believed in the dream. They believed in Superman. But others didn't. Batman vanished underground. His allies followed him: Green Arrow, Black Canary, Harley Quinn, and others who still believed freedom mattered more than safety. Together, they formed the insurgency. And so began the quiet war between gods and men. Superman's regime grew stronger each year. Nations surrendered their weapons. Religions dissolved. And cities began to build monuments in his honor. Children grew up saluting the House of El. The line between hero and dictator blurred completely. Superman believed he was fixing the world. He spoke to crowds, his voice calm, steady, absolute. You don't need to fear anymore. I'll protect you from everything. But protection became possession, and every soul on Earth became a citizen of Superman's empire. Batman's insurgency struck in shadows, sabotage, information leaks, rescues of prisoners. But Superman's eyes could see through walls. His drones patrolled the skies. Every act of resistance came with a price. When Aquaman refused to bow, Superman descended into Atlantis. He shattered the royal palace and forced the Ocean King to surrender. When Black Adam defied him, he was left buried under a mountain. Even the Flash, once his ally, began to question the cause. We're supposed to save people, not scare them, Flash said. Fear keeps them safe, Superman replied. Every time someone challenged him, another city fell. Another hero vanished. The regime's symbol, the red S, burned brighter than ever, but it no longer stood for hope. It stood for Superman. Then came the turning point, the capture of Batman. It happened in Gotham under the cover of night. Superman arrived, surrounded by his loyalists. You can't win, Bruce, he said. You'll destroy everything trying to stop me. You already did that, Batman replied. With a single motion, Superman crushed his communicator. The insurgency went dark. But Batman had one last card to play. Before his capture, he activated a contingency plan, a distress signal sent through the multiverse. A call for help from another world. On that world, Superman was still a hero, a man of restraint and compassion. When he received the message, he didn't hesitate. He crossed realities to face the one person he never thought he'd have to, himself. The stage was set for the ultimate confrontation. Superman versus Superman. The fallen god against the man who never broke. Batman smiled faintly as he sat in his cell, bruised and bleeding, whispering to himself, "Let's see what happens when hope meets fear." And somewhere, beyond the stars, the real Superman answered the call. The sky above Metropolis cracked open. A beam of light tore through the clouds, and from it descended the man the regime had forgotten still existed. Not their Superman, but another, from a world still ruled by hope, not fear. The soldiers of the regime froze as they saw him. The same face, the same voice, but his eyes, they weren't red. They were kind, calm, human. He landed in the center of the city and looked around at the towering statues of himself. "What have you done?" he whispered. Moments later, the true ruler of this world appeared. The fallen Superman, dressed in black and crimson, his cape tattered from battle. He hovered above the streets, glaring down at his other self. "You shouldn't have come here," he said. "You needed me too," the hero replied. The people watched as two gods faced one another, mirror images divided by morality. The fallen Superman sneered. "I brought peace. I stopped wars. I ended crime. I made the world safe. You made it silent," the hero said. "You forgot what peace costs when no one can speak." Their clash shook the city. Every punch cracked glass across miles. Every blow sent shockwaves through steel. It wasn't just a fight for power. It was a war for the soul of Superman himself. Meanwhile, in the shadows below, Batman's insurgency made its move. Cyborg systems went offline. Wonder Woman was drawn into battle with her counterpart from the alternate Earth. And for the first time in years, the regime faltered. The two Supermen collided mid-air, their voices echoing like thunder. "You think they can survive without me? They did before you." The fallen Superman roared, his eyes burning with rage. He unleashed a beam of heat vision strong enough to melt mountains, but the hero deflected it into the sky. The clouds split open, light pouring down like judgment. And in that light, for a brief second, Clark Kent remembered who he was. He saw Lois's face. He heard her laughter. And he realized the truth. He wasn't saving the world for her. He was punishing it for existing without her. That moment of hesitation was all his other self needed. The hero struck, pinning him to the ground, holding his hand to his chest. "It's over," he said softly. "You can't stop me." The fallen one growled. "You'll just become me." The hero looked into his own eyes and whispered, "Then I'll do what you couldn't. Forgive." With the help of Batman's kryptonite restraints, the regime Superman was finally subdued. The once invincible god lay broken, silent, and defeated by himself. In the days that followed, the regime collapsed. His soldiers disarmed. The skies cleared. And for the first time in years, the people of Earth breathed freely again. Batman stood beside the victorious Superman, the one who still believed. "We'll need to rebuild," Batman said. "They'll hate me," the hero replied. "Maybe," Bruce said, "but they'll remember what you stood for." In a secured cell deep beneath Metropolis, the fallen Superman sat alone. His eyes dimmed, his cape torn. He stared through reinforced glass at the world he'd once owned. "Lois," he whispered. "I tried to save them. I just forgot how." Outside, the dawn broke, soft, fragile, and real. The sun rose on a world without gods, only men and women learning to stand on their own again. The other Superman looked up at it and smiled faintly. "No more tyrants," he said. "No more regimes. Just people. Just hope." And for the first time since the day the Joker laughed, the world finally felt alive again. Because even when gods fall, hope doesn't die. It just waits for someone to remember.